Wow, is it time for brunch?
It's always time for brunch.
Again? It's time for brunch talk, that's for sure.
I was going to say, it's always time for brunch talk when we're dishing about dating. Always.
And I realize that people must listen to this at different times. So maybe it just sounds super awkward when it's like Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Yes.
Hey.
Always time for brunch.
Anytime you could gab with your girlfriends or guy friends, not discriminatory,
It's
that's the best. It could be dinner talk, it could be tea time, it could be whatever the fuck you want it to be.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. But we call it brunch talk.
It's a metaphor.
Metaphor for dishing. Here we go. We are back again with another episode of Brunch Talk where we dissect your burning dating questions. As we said in previous episodes, we love getting these questions, and it's very therapeutic for us to answer them and to answer them together.
Yes.
So keep sending them in because it feels good to get them in.
And you can always DM us at DATEABLE Podcast, post in the Love in the Time of Corona, the Facebook group, but most importantly, send it over at hello@dateablepodcast.com. Those are the ones that we're always looking at. So make sure to send us an email with your burning dating questions.
Yeah. So this burning question for this episode is, what are your thoughts on a friends with benefits situation?
Yes. And more context that we got from the submitter, or more context we got from the submission. I'm looking to find my person and to meet someone to have a long-term relationship with. I have been seeing this guy on and off, mostly as a hookup situation for the last 10 months. I don't see a future with this person. Do you see any reason why I can't continue to see them? Is it actually helping me, or am I shooting myself in the foot somehow by having this relationship in my life?
Yeah. I get it. I get why this person is feeling this way, because there's this notion of it's better to be with someone than to be alone. So might as well just have a warm body while you're trying to find your long-term warm body. Personally, I think this is a very individual experience. For me, that's never worked out because the friends with benefits situations have always turned to be a little bit messy.
Yes.
One person always wants something a little bit more at the end, and it's a miscommunication or you're misaligned. So I've had conversations where it's like, wait, you have feelings for me, or now I have feelings for you, and then where do we go from here? It gets very, very messy if you don't it gets very, very messy if you are still trying to find your person, because eventually I find whoever's there can mold into your idea of your partner.
Mm-hmm. I agree with the fact that it's easy to fall into, well, this isn't causing any harm. I don't really have long-term feelings for this person. They're not getting in my way. I definitely did this approach for many, many years. Would keep someone involved, even if they weren't what I wanted or I knew that they could give me. And I think it's almost a little bit of a crutch. And it's less motivating to go on dates when you know that you can always get some. Basically. You have less motivation. And I think too, I almost feel like you need to make space for that person. And this is pending you really want a long-term relationship. And I would say the other thing is, when I was doing this, and I think we see this with a lot of people too, what is it that you really want? Because a lot of times we say we want the long-term relationship, but our actions dictate elsewise. So if you find yourself gravitating to friends with benefits all the time, or loosely defined situationships, or, some unrequited love, something that is not a full-fledged relationship, I think you need to ask yourself, what is it that I really want at this stage of life? And if it is something more casual, there's nothing wrong with that. I think what gets to be problematic, though, is when we say one thing and we do actions that are the opposite.
Which is what people do all the time. That's what gets us in hot water is we say we want one thing and then we do the complete opposite. It's such a conflicting situation to be in. And with something like this, when you are with a friends with benefits, let's just call it what it is. You're not friends. Like,
No,
get over
you're
that. You're
not
not friends.
You
You're
are
fuck
not
buddies.
friends.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are sleeping together. Stop saying friends with benefits. That kind of cushions the fall a little bit to say, "Oh, I'm sleeping with someone that I care about." It's not. This is not a friend of yours, so stop calling it that. And also, I feel like I'm just pulling from my past experience with all of this is that I've had times where I've had a friends with benefit, which is not, we just talked about that. It's not the case. And then if my friends ask me if I'm seeing someone, I say yes.
Yes.
I actually say, I'm like, yes, I've been seeing someone. It's casual though. It's casual. And it's almost like you're making an excuse for why this is not the thing that you actually want.
Mhm.
And it never makes sense to say, yes, I am seeing this person, because you're not. You're not friends, and you're not fucking seeing them either.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, because I've totally been there. I mean, some of it just depends on like what is it that you really want out of relationships. I think a lot of times when I held on to these people that were clearly not the right fit, there was this feeling that something, it was better than nothing.
Yeah.
Which I think is arguably the opposite. It's actually worse than nothing because you're not fully available for something that could be what you actually want.
Yeah.
And I wanted someone to talk to my friends about. I wanted, the drama that I
Yes.
could have those conversations.
Yes.
One, not feeling left out, that I was like the only one that didn't have someone. But it was almost the value of the relationship was more to bond with my friends than to have a
Yes.
relationship. And, sometimes you just have to go through that stage. There's nothing wrong with it. But taking a step back of being like, where am I actually right now? And what is it? And, feel like if you decide, okay, this is where I'm at, is I'm not really ready to like make someone my whole life. I'm not really ready to fully integrate someone 100%. I think you just need to own that and be okay with that.
Yes. 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 And not use it as a way to validate. I think that's what it is. Like to
Yeah.
feel like you're validated in society because you have someone around. I love food, so I kind of think about this as you're trying to dine out at a Michelin star restaurant, yet you have frozen pizza at home.
Yeah.
So they both will make you full. And if you always fall back to the frozen pizza, it makes you delay the need to go to a Michelin star restaurant because you're full, right? I don't
Yeah.
need to get after that. But you would prefer to be at the Michelin star restaurant. The cold pizza is never going to give you the same experience. It'll just gratify you in that moment because then you won't be hungry. Also, I feel like the more frozen pizzas you eat, the less desirable the Michelin star restaurant is because you're like, this is easy. I can stay
Yeah.
at home, just pop it in the microwave or in the oven. I don't need to get dressed up. I don't need to go out. It makes you more complacent in your journey to love.
Definitely. I think it distracts you also.
Oh, yeah.
I know, there were times, and everyone has different opinions of this, but we've heard this from a few people too, of taking a very intentional dating sabbatical, which
Yeah.
means really not having all these fake relationships. And I'm going to call them fake relationships because I think they are. They're not a reciprocal, they're a relationship. I don't want to say they're not a relationship, but it's not this long-term partnership that you truly desire, pending that's what you truly desire. And I think the more we have these going on, it gives us less time to reflect on what is it that we really want. And it also, you've kind of alluded to this too, it makes behavior normalized. I think for a while, I was like, oh yeah, it's totally normal that this guy will never text me, but he'll hit me up at 2 a.m. after the
Yeah.
bars. Like, that's not normal. But the more we
No.
engage in that, the more we feel like, oh yeah, like that is the bare minimum I accept from someone. And we don't hold people to the standards and accountability that a full-fledged integrated relationship needs to survive.
It's a good point because that's when you get taken advantage of. And then you start making excuses for why you're taken advantage of because we're not committed, because we're not in a relationship. So
Yes.
they can treat me like shit. again, going back to friends with benefits, where are the fucking benefits here?
Right, sex. It's like get a vibrator, like,
I'm having a hard time because the sex on someone's terms. It's not like you two are
yeah,
making plans to have sex next Saturday. It's one of you is horny and then you text the other person. That's not a benefit. That's
yeah.
use and abuse.
I think for me too, like I would always be like, I think what I realized, I guess I should say, I didn't know this at the time, but I realized later on is that I needed someone that consistently showed up
Yeah.
and, I felt safe with and I felt like was going to be there for me in difficult times. And I think a lot of people at the core of it, that is the need of a relationship to feel, like this person has your back. But if you never know the next time you're going to see someone, you never know when they're going to show up, that is basically the opposite of the core need of a relationship.
It's true. I think the only benefit it's satisfying is the sex part. I guess there are no friends with benefits out there where it's just you cook together and that's it. Like that's not a situation. I feel like friends with benefits, it's always a booty call
Yeah.
with sex involved. But a real relationship is so much more than sex. And I personally have felt this way getting out of these friends with benefit situations devalued me even more. I felt more insecure in myself and I really had to take a few months to get myself confidence back up to date the way I want to date again.
Yeah. So I stumbled on Amy Chan. She's like a breakup expert on Instagram. And she actually had a really interesting perspective. She calls it the third person that's lingering in a relationship. This could be an ex that hasn't fully gone away. This could be a friends with benefits. This could be an overbearing mother, she even pointed out. So it basically, who is this other person that's getting in the way of what you really want? And I think a lot of times we don't see it as they're getting in their way. For years, I tricked myself into being like, I can totally date with my ex in the picture. Like, no problem. But it's like until I cleared that out, that's when things started to click. So I feel like people can pick up on the energy that there's someone else around.
For sure. Yeah. You got to clear out your space to make room for someone. And that's such a great way of looking at it because it's not an infinite space that you can just have all these people in your life. So you have to clean out the trash in order to allow the good things to come in. So I like that perspective quite a bit. And I hope whoever wrote in this question can find some clarity to understand what is it that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And you're right, Julie, if it's just looking for some hot sex.
Yeah. Like you
sex
do
on
you.
Demand,
go for it, right?
Just say that. You're not seeing anybody. You're not dating anyone. This is not your friend. You're just getting some sex with someone.
I think you should think about it from the other perspective of someone that would date you too. Let's say you do want a monogamous, committed relationship. If you met someone that had a friends with benefits on the side while you were dating them, would that feel like a viable prospect to you? Probably not. Like I'm even just saying it out loud. I'm being like, I wouldn't want to be with someone that had this going on. So I think we need to think about, just because we do it, would we feel the same way if the situation was reversed?
Yeah, I hate that. That just made me feel a little grossed out thinking about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. And I think it's unfortunate that so many people are so afraid of being alone.
Yeah.
And that darkness of being alone is more scary than being with the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I hope we have more discernment to know what is good for us and what is not good for us. And in every friends with benefits situation that I can recall, it never ended well for me. I can identify that pattern. And I love the saying, you don't have problems, you have patterns. So if you can identify these patterns, then you can know how to shift your outcome. And end of the day, it's about what it is good for you and what it is that you truly want, not what it is satisfying in this moment right now.
Yeah. I had a friends with benefits that went on way too long, like close to 2 years. And,
Yeah.
I definitely developed feelings, and it was something that I
Yeah.
didn't have at the beginning, but I feel like just the dopamine hits and like the sex hormones that go off, like
Yeah.
even if you are like objectively, I have no attraction to this person, you will be attracted by
You
two
will.
years of
Mhm.
sleeping with them. And I remember asking him to meet up to talk about like what we were doing. And he said no. He basically was like, no, I won't meet up with you for a drink or a coffee.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is someone I'm allowing to sleep with me, but he won't meet me to like talk. Like, it's
Yes.
so messed up. And I think you just accept the bare minimum so often.
Yes.
And, I'm not like, you got to learn from this stuff. And I think that definitely helped me realize what I'll never stand for again in my life. And,
Mhm.
value. If someone said to me, no, I will not like have a conversation with you, I'd be like, okay, fuck off. Like,
Bye.
basically, this
Yeah.
is done. And it does take developing that. And sometimes you have to go through these experiences. So I think if you are finding yourself in this situation, you're relating to this episode that, hey, I'm actually saying one thing and doing the other, it's time to take inventory. It's
Mhm.
time to, you can end this whenever you want. And how can you take what you've done, what this action has been with this friends with benefits or unreciprocal situation, and use it to where you're trying to get? What can you learn for this? What standards can you have moving forward? What discernment can you have? How can you be more intentional of finding people that align with what you're actually looking for? The only case I will put that's kind of pro friends with
Mhm.
benefits is, and again, this goes back to where you are in your dating journey. I feel like in times that I've had them, maybe I wasn't as sexually confident, or I wasn't,
Mm.
I didn't have that intimacy at all. So it did at least teach me a little more about
Mm.
myself and what I wanted and gave that confidence. Again, we talked about how it can go haywire and ultimately lose that confidence, but I do want to not say that there's never a situation for friends with benefits. So much of
Yep.
this is personal. Like, let's say you didn't have a lot of relationship experience. Maybe a friends with benefits is the person to like, or let's say you didn't have a lot of sexual
Ease you in.
experience. Maybe a friends with
Yeah.
benefits is a good place to ease you in. Like, there's many things that could be there. A lot of it depends, yeah, where you are, who this person is, what the motives are, all that, what expectations are laid out up front. That's a big piece of it too. Okay, so what advice do we have for someone that's in here that's trying to get out? Let's say they're dickmatized or pussy whipped. We learned that. And it's hard because we understand it's hard to let go of something when you have nothing. And it is unfortunate that society views something, even something terrible, as better than nothing. How can people
Mhm.
kind of unravel and get to where they need to be?
Gosh, I find cutting people off cold turkey is the best way because otherwise there are nothing lingering. There are no feelings that are going to be lingering past, cutting each other off. So I feel like that's the most humane way of getting yourself out of the situation. I know that probably sounds scary, but maybe it's about filling up your social calendar, reconnecting with your friends. I think replacing a toxic relationship with healthy relationships will help you rise out of the situation. So maybe it's like the friends that you haven't seen in a while or the coworkers that you really enjoyed being around. Replace your time with this toxic person with the people who truly would care about you.
Yeah, I think take yourself on a retreat. And, this could
Mm,
be somewhere freaking awesome. Like, this could be somewhere that you travel to, or it could be somewhere that
yeah.
you walk to. It does not need to be fancy by any means. There's probably some kind of nook or area in wherever you live that could be soothing. I feel like somewhere with water always does it for me in some way. And really getting clear and intentional of what is it that I want and what have my patterns been up until now.
Mm,
And, I think giving yourself this reward and treat of putting yourself first can help minimize any feelings of, not having this person in your life, because you can at least know that I'm doing something that's helping me in the long run. And it's so hard because we can't see the future and we're very present biased. We just see what's in front of us today, but it's very short-sighted when you think about it. So I remember doing this, like there was exercises that you'd visualize yourself like with your partner and what a Saturday looked for you, what a birthday looked for you. And I think even having the hope that that's possible. And another one was, what about my friends? Like, do I love about their partnership? So you're kind of pulling that these examples actually exist. And that can help you kind of start to be more intentional and figure out what you're looking for ultimately, and then realize when situations are getting in the way of that vision and not being
Yep.
additive to that vision. So instead of subtracting something from your life, like a person, you're now adding by removing them to what it
Yeah.
is you ultimately want.
Yeah. A visualization exercise I've done in the past is visualize your room and put the person in your room, this said toxic friends with benefits in your room. And what do you see? Where are they standing? Are they standing in front of a door or a window? Are they blocking the light? Are they blocking your furniture? Are they blocking your view? And when I did this exercise, I was like, they're standing in front of my fucking door. I can't leave. I'm trapped in here and it's dark. So when I was able to visually push them away from the door, the light came in and a breeze came in to my room. That meant there was something much better out there that will enter my space. And this person's blocking that space. So think about it. Visualize what feelings, what colors, what temperature this person brings into your mind when you think about them. It's always a great gut check of who this person is in your life and what they represent for you.
I love that. I was listening to this podcast about actually how to, have more in life is to remove. And it kind of
Ooh,
makes me think about that. It follows, Marie Kondo, right? It's like all
yeah,
about eliminating and, feng shuiing your dating life and
yes,
getting rid of what's not serving you. So I love what you were just saying. That example is this person's blocking the door. If that person was not there, the door is now wide open. So it's like,
yeah,
how do we reframe that to be like, I'm actually getting more by removing this? Yeah, I mean, this was a tough one because I think like it's so easy to justify how this is helping. I've
yep.
definitely felt this before, like, oh, maybe I'm not as, like I won't have sex as early on dates because I'm like getting it elsewhere.
Oh, right, right, yeah,
Or I won't be as like thirsty, or as I won't be as
yep,
needy. But then when you really think about it, like, don't you want all that stuff in a relationship? I feel like it's
yes,
just a justification that there's something deeper down of that you're not ready or you don't believe you can have it, whatever that is. So how do you get to the root of what that really is to figure out if this is the right path, opposed to these kind of like surface level benefits that you're seeing?
so true, so true. And just be honest with yourself. End of the day,
Yep.
evaluated experiences is what makes us wiser. Just aging does not make us wiser. We're just collecting experiences. We've got to reflect on them. So thank you for this question. It's nice to reflect on those periods in
Yeah.
my life, and I'm so glad I learned from those. And can't wait for these more questions to come in so we can all reflect on them together.